If you are over 65 on the age pension, helping your parents with aged care, or simply own the home you worked your whole life to pay off, you need to hear this right now. Because one of the biggest fear headlines spreading across Australia is this idea that from 2026, the government can just take a senior's home. That claim has shocked families, rattled pensioners, and sparked panic in community groups, comment sections, and living rooms all over the country. But here is the truth that almost nobody is explaining properly. There is a massive difference between a scary viral claim and what the rules actually say. And if you do not understand that difference, fear can make you feel powerless, when in reality, the facts tell a very different story. Welcome back to Centrelink Age Pension, the channel where we cut through rumours, break down the real rules, and help Australian seniors protect their money, their rights, and their peace of mind. Today we are unpacking the so-called Home Seizure Law 2026. What is real, what is false, what has changed in aged care, what has not changed, and what every pensioner and family member should do next. So let's start with the biggest question straight away. Is there a new law in Australia that lets the government seize seniors' homes simply because they are underutilised, too big, or have spare bedrooms? No. That is the answer, no. There is no confirmed law that says the government is coming to take the homes of older Australians because they live alone, or because someone thinks the house is too large for them. That viral claim has spread because fear spreads faster than facts. And once people hear words like seizure, compulsory sale, pension cut, or forced transfer, the emotional damage is immediate. People do not wait for details. They panic first and investigate later. Now, that does not mean there are no rules involving your home. This is where many people get confused. Your home absolutely can affect some parts of your financial assessment, depending on the situation. But that is not the same thing as the government knocking on the door and taking your property. Those are two completely different realities. And today, I want to separate them very clearly so you know exactly where you stand. For most age pension recipients, the principal home you live in is generally not counted as an asset under the age pension assets test. That point alone destroys a lot of the fear. If you are living in your own principal home, it is usually exempt for age pension asset testing purposes, along with up to the first 2 hectares of land it sits on if it is on a single title. So when people hear that pension changes are coming and instantly assume their family home is now target number 1, that is not how the normal age pension rules work. But here is where the confusion starts. Some seniors move out of their home temporarily. Some sell and downsize. Some enter retirement villages. Some go into residential aged care. Some have adult children living with them. Some rent out their former home. Some have complex property arrangements, family trusts, granny flat interests, or part ownership situations. That is where the conversation gets more complicated. Not because of a secret seizure law, but because different rules apply in different circumstances. Let's talk about aged care because this is one of the biggest reasons these scary stories get traction. When an older Australian moves into residential aged care, the treatment of the family home can change for means assessment purposes, depending on who is still living there and how the person's situation is structured. That means the home may be counted in a financial assessment in some cases. But listen carefully. Counted in an assessment is not the same as automatically taken away. This is the key point too many channels deliberately blur because panic gets clicks. If a protected person is still living in the home, for example a partner in certain circumstances, the way the home is treated may be more favorable. If nobody protected remains in the home, some of the home's value can be included in an aged care means assessment, often subject to a capped amount rather than full market value. Again, that is about calculating contributions and fees in specific care settings. It is not proof of a law that lets the government seize your home because it looks underused. This is exactly why families feel blindsided. They hear one true fragment, like yes, the home can matter in aged care assessments, then combine it with a false emotional headline, like the government can now take your house in 2026, and suddenly the whole story sounds believable. But believable is not the same as true. Now let's go deeper into what is actually happening. Australia has gone through significant aged care reform. New aged care rules and fee structures have been rolling out, and those changes matter. There are reporting obligations. There are new contribution structures. There are fresh questions about who pays what in residential aged care and how means are assessed. There are also regular age pension income and asset threshold reviews. When people hear that the rules are changing, especially around late-life care and property, they naturally worry that their home is now at risk. And to be fair, some of that anxiety is understandable. For many older Australians, the house is not just an asset. It is security, it is memory, it is independence. It is the one thing they believed was untouchable after decades of sacrifice. So when a rumor appears saying your spare bedroom could get your house flagged, or your pension could be reduced if you refuse to surrender your home, it does not just sound like policy, it sounds like betrayal. But here is what you need to remember. A scary video can mix legal language, official-sounding phrases, and dramatic timing to sound authoritative. It might mention a reform bill, a property efficiency clause, or a housing measure in a confident tone. It might even say, "Look it up." But when you actually go looking, the specific law often is not there. That is the moment people need to slow down and ask one simple question. Am I reacting to a verified law or to a viral performance? At Centrelink Age Pension, we always say the same thing. Follow the rule, not the rumour. Follow the actual assessment criteria, not the dramatic thumbnail. Follow the official guidance, not a voiceover designed to scare you into watching until the end. So what should seniors really be watching in 2026? Not a fake house seizure law. What you should be watching are the real issues that can affect you. If you are on the age pension, understand how the income test and assets test apply to your specific circumstances. If you own property beyond your principal home, that matters. If you rent out a property, that matters. If you sell your home and hold the proceeds while planning to buy another one, that matters. If you move into care, that matters. If your partner remains in the home, that matters. If your financial situation changes and you do not report it properly, that matters. That is where seniors can get caught out. Not by a fantasy seizure squad, but by misunderstanding how exemptions, reporting deadlines, care assessments, and asset treatment actually work. Here is another thing many viewers need to hear. Your home may be exempt under one system and treated differently under another. That shocks people. They assume if the home is protected for the age pension, then it must be protected in exactly the same way for every aged care assessment, every contribution calculation, and every property-related scenario. That is not always the case. Different systems serve different purposes. One system may be working out pension eligibility. Another may be working out aged care contribution levels. If you do not know which system you are dealing with, you can easily misunderstand what is happening and assume the worst. And yes, there are situations where people end up selling the home. But that is very different from saying the government simply seized it. Families sometimes choose to sell to fund care costs, simplify estates, reduce stress, or manage affordability. Other times they keep the home. Some borrow against equity through approved schemes. Some restructure finances. Some get advice and discover options they did not even know existed. This is why language matters so much. Forced sale, strategic sale, counted asset, exempt asset, and government seizure are not interchangeable terms. Let me say that again because it is the heart of this entire topic. A home being considered in a means assessment is not the same as the government taking your house. A family deciding to sell to cover care or living costs is not the same as a seizure law. And a viral claim using emotional language is not the same as verified legislation. So what should you do right now if this issue has worried you or your family? First, do not share panic videos before checking whether the named law actually exists. Second, if you are on the age pension, review whether your home is still your principal home and whether any other real estate you own is being treated correctly. Third, if you or your loved one may enter residential aged care, start learning now how the means assessment works before the move happens, not after. Fourth, find out whether a protected person remains in the home and how that could affect the assessment. Fifth, report major financial or asset changes properly and on time. A lot of trouble starts not from the rule itself, but from people discovering too late that their records were inaccurate. Sixth, if your case is complex, especially if there is a retirement village arrangement, granny flat interest, partial ownership, or a family agreement around the home, get proper financial information or legal advice before making a move you cannot undo. And finally, remember that fear makes bad decisions feel urgent. Professional advice makes good decisions possible. Now, if you are watching this and thinking, I do not trust the system, that is exactly why you need facts. When people are scared, they either freeze or they rush. Both can be dangerous. Freezing means you avoid paperwork, ignore notices, and miss important deadlines. Rushing means you sell assets, transfer property, or sign agreements before you understand the consequences. Neither one protects your future. The strongest position any senior can have right now is not panic. It is clarity. Clarity about what the age pension actually counts. Clarity about how aged care assessments work. Clarity about when the family home is exempt, when it may be partly accessible, and when a rumor is nothing more than a rumor. So if someone tells you in 2026 the government can seize your home just because you are a senior living in a bigger house, stop right there. Ask them to show you the actual law. Ask them to show you the official wording. Ask them to prove the difference between an assessment rule and a seizure power. Most of the time, the fear falls apart the moment the facts walk into the room. And that is the real story here. Seniors are not crazy for being worried. Housing pressure is real. Cost of living is real. Aged care complexity is real. Pension confusion is real. But the specific claim that a new law simply allows the government to take older Australians' homes because they are underutilized is not the same as what the verified rules show. The truth is more technical, more nuanced, and much less dramatic than the viral version. That is why this channel exists. Not to hype fear, but to replace it with understanding. Not to scare pensioners, but to strengthen them. Not to repeat alarming headlines, but to explain what is really happening behind them. If this video helped clear the air for you, do me a favor and share it with a parent, partner, neighbor, or friend who has been stressed by these claims. Because one calm explanation can save someone weeks of fear. And in times like these, clear information is not just helpful, it is protection. Make sure you subscribe to Centrelink Age Pension for more updates on age pension changes, senior benefits, aged care rules, payment increases, asset tests, and the real stories behind the headlines. And if you want, drop a comment with the word home, and I will know you want more videos breaking down how your property can affect pension and aged care decisions in plain English. Stay informed, stay careful, and most importantly, stay calm. Because when you know the rules, you stop being a target for rumours. And that is exactly how you protect your future.